Other memories were of covering the last Soviet Communist Party Congress in 1990 for the Independent on Sunday, and doing a magazine piece at the same time on the likelihood of imminent independence for Ukraine, at a time when this still seemed unthinkable. At the Communist Party Congress was just unlike anything I'd ever seen when I'd been a correspondent in Moscow. Boris Yeltsin, who was then the president of the Russian Federation, delivered an implicit threat to television reporters to pull Russia out of the Soviet Union, saying that Russian laws would have more importance, would be preeminent over Soviet laws, which was a very strange way of saying that the Soviet Union was coming to an end, which it didn't do for another 18 months, actually. But this started putting ideas in people's heads that the Soviet Union would not be eternal. And then there was another great moment when Yeltsin tore up his Communist Party card and threw it on the ground during the Congress and walked out. And it was yet another moment. There was a very famous eye surgeon who was a member of the Communist Party Central Committee. And he stood up and he said, "Comrades, we have done our duty. We have taught the rest of the world how not to live for the past 70 years. Now, let's get on with life." And this was all sort of, for someone who'd been, in the 1970s, I'd been working for Reuters in Moscow under Brezhnev, under Leonid Brezhnev. And this was just, it was like being in a completely different country. It was just, apart from the buildings, there seemed to be no resemblance to the Soviet Union I had known 20 years before. And then I left the Congress to go down to Ukraine, where I came across a lot of, I was there quite by chance, when the Ukrainian Supreme Soviet held its first vote on independence, and which passed. But this meant absolutely nothing. The Soviet Union still existed, and there was no way Ukraine was going to get its independence. But it was, and then I went to the Western Ukraine, to Lviv, which is the capital of Western Ukraine. And there, it's just absolutely extraordinary. There were no Soviet flags to be seen. There were only nationalist flags up on even on official buildings. And I went to see the main Ukrainian Nationalist Party at the time in Lviv, and I'd already made contact with them before I got there. And I got there in complete pandemonium, with people shouting and talking and rushing about all over the place. And there was this elderly man who took me by the arm and he said, "We'll go out and we'll sit in this park, and I'll get a couple of other people to come with us." And we went and sat in this park, which was right by the local branch of the Academy of Sciences. And I remember there were these people coming out, and they would call them over as they were coming out of the library of the Academy of Sciences. And the people I was with on this park bench call them over and say, come over and tell us tell this man what's going on." And one of them pointed his finger at me and he said, "When do you think Ukraine became Ukraine, when it was really a country?" And I was completely stumped. And I said, "Well, when Saint Vladimir brought Christianity to Russia," which was Russia at the time was Kiev. Kiev was the original capital. And he said, "It's a theory, the wrong theory, but it's a theory." And as we were sitting on this bench, the man I'd originally met in the party office tapped me on the arm. He said, "You see those people standing on that little hillock over there?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, they're the KGB agents who are following you." And I said, "How do you know they're not following you?" He said, "They don't have to follow us. We're so infiltrated that they know everything we do." And in fact, they were. I had quite a lot of attention paid to me on that trip, but that's nothing to do with the Independent. But it was a great opportunity. I remember writing a story about the likelihood of Ukrainian independence, which I didn't think was going to come within 18 months. But it did seem, it was beginning to look more inevitable. And there again, the Independent on Sunday was very, very good. It took the risk and it ran the story. And I was told later on that it caused quite a lot of discussion in the British Foreign Office. And they suddenly realized that they had very few people who knew much about Ukraine, or who indeed had even been there for any length of time. And so that was another good moment on that paper.